Chapter 2, Future History. Sounds like an oxymoron, doesn't it? Future history. Who can say with any assurance what's going to happen tomorrow? Popular psychics of recent years, of course, have tried, for there are big bucks to be made from a gullible public if you can hit some paltry percentage of your guesses. Tell them what musician will be sleeping with what movie star next month, and the TV talk shows will throw significant amounts of cash at you and promote your latest book. Street corner gypsies will read your palm if you'll grease theirs, telling you what they think you want to hear about your future. Or go uptown to the young lions of the merchants of Tarshish, the financial prognosticators of Wall Street, where fortunes aren't told, they're made by predicting what will happen to other people's money, that is, making educated guesses. None of this is future history. There is no certainty that any of these predictions will come to pass, and their accuracy doesn't correlate to how much money you pay for them. The vaunted Nostradamus made a tidy little sum publishing his cryptic quatrains, considered great entertainment by the cognoscenti of his day, but no one acted on them. No one changed the course of their life because of what they said. How could they? They're vague to a fault, apparently the result of a great deal of effort to make them precisely that. The best you could do with them was to scan the events of the day, trying to find something that sort of lined up. Occasionally, something did. Even a blind squirrel finds an acorn now and then. But future history? No. Even if they were right sometimes, you can't trust Jean Dixon, Nostradamus, or Madame Sabrina of 42nd Street, or even your broker at Morgan Stanley to be as accurate as next Wednesday's newspaper. You can't trust the newspaper either, but let's not go there. History, ideally, is a true account of events that took place in the past. You can trust it. Learn from it. Build your future upon it. Wise men study history so that they might avoid the mistakes of their forebears. They look at what they did right and emulate them, and look at what they did wrong and do something else. History is a stern schoolmaster. Those who ignore its lessons are doomed to repeat the class. But if history teaches us anything, it's that we do ignore the lessons. We always have. Solomon nailed it.
That which has been will be. That which is done will be done. And there is nothing new under the sun. Ecclesiastes 1:9.
Oh, sure, we have technology the ancients couldn't have dreamed of. Computers, frozen pizza, flush toilets. But human nature hasn't changed one whit. Given the chance, we will chase after everything under heaven, trying unsuccessfully to fill the void within us that only God can fill, just like Solomon said. We can look at history and try to figure out where we went wrong. We can peer ahead, hoping to avoid the disaster we suspect is lurking there, or we can choose to live blithely in the present, willingly ignorant of both past and future, but we will never know peace until we come to terms with the one who holds the past and the future in the palm of his hand and calls it all now. God knows how we're built. After all, He built us. He's aware that we have needs, and that the highest of these is the need to know. It's just the way we're wired. Joshua, quoting Moses, put it like this:
Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. Matthew 4:4.
Perhaps that explains why the Word of God is replete with history, both past and future. God wants us to know, to have a relationship with Him, to understand who He is, what He's doing, and what He plans to do in our future. Because we live within the constraints of time, He, who does not, must meet us within the framework of historical reality if He is to meet us at all. Our relationship with God, time-wise, is kind of like watching the Rose Parade on New Year's Day. Not on TV, you understand, but freezing our toes off in person in Pasadena. We are on the ground. We can see the float right in front of us, and we have a clear memory of the marching band that just passed. If we listen very carefully, we can hear the clop, clop of horses' hooves on Colorado Boulevard, telling us something about the immediate future. There's an equestrian unit coming. Beyond that, only our knowledge of Rose Parades of years past can give us a clue, and then only in the most general of terms as to what's coming in the more distant future. That is, unless we have the official Tournament of Roses program. With the written schedule in hand, we'll know that after the horses and the float from that big insurance company, the Shriners in their funny little hats and miniature automobiles will arrive. The program helps us appreciate the effort that went into putting on such a grand event, and, on a more practical level, will let us make sure we're not stuck standing in the line at the hot chocolate vendor's cart when the guys in the little cars show up. But while we're down on the ground, watching life moment to moment, there's somebody above us who sees the entire parade route from start to finish in one eye gulp. This guy, from his lofty perch in the gondola of the Fuji blimp, witnesses every float, marching band, equestrian team, and even the fellows in the little cars, all at the same time. The entire parade is present tense to him. All of this has a direct parallel in the parade of life, the march of human history. We live our lives one day at a time, trying to learn from the past and wondering what the future will hold. All the while, there is a God in heaven who sees the whole thing end to end. The same God has given us his parade program, the Bible, so we'll remember what's past and have an idea of what's coming. Some of us have been watching the parade so long we think it goes on forever, but the program states quite plainly that it does not. It had a beginning, and it will have an end. We can hear the music of the last marching band as it makes its way toward us. We can see the last float coming up the street. The end is almost here. Look again at your program. See all those ads? Yeah, I know, most everybody ignores them, but they tell us something important. There is life outside the parade. The event happens on New Year's Day, but we still have the whole year ahead of us. 364 more days to work and play and laugh and love, to walk hand in hand with our Father, wide-eyed in awe at his greatness. The parade we're watching is the whole of human history, but it's only the first day. When the last float passes, when the music fades, it will merely mark the end of the beginning. Eternity lies before us. So 2 things are apparent. First, God alone is in a position to know the future, because he alone exists outside of the bounds of time. Even his self-revealed name, Yahweh, means I am, that is, the self-existent one. Second, he has chosen to reveal something of our future to us. It's not his future, mind you. All time is present to God. As I hinted earlier, revealing what will happen is one of the few tools God has to prove his deity to us without forcing us to worship him. And that is something he doesn't want to do. That may come as a surprise, but it makes perfect sense. What's the one thing the Creator lacks within himself? Companionship, fellowship. Let's face it, it would be really hard to take God to court and try him by a journey of his peers. He has no peers. Who knows how many eternities God thought about it before he started, but at some point he decided to do something about it. He started out by creating angels. That's a guess, of course. Give it a speculation factor of 3. These wonderful creatures were built to last forever, and they served God in the spirit realm. I believe that although they had the capacity for loyalty, they did not have the capacity for love. Not really. Eventually, one of their number, the most splendiferous angel of them all, became filled with pride, grew jealous of God, and rebelled, drawing a third of the angelic host with him. Thus Ezekiel reports of Satan.
You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created, till iniquity was found in you. You became filled with violence within, and you sinned. Therefore I will cast you down as a profane thing, out of the mountain of God. Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. Ezekiel 28:12, 15, and 17.
Isaiah described it like this.
How have you fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How you are cut down to the ground, how you weakened the nations. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation, on the farthest side of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Isaiah 14:12 through 14.
I will be like the Most High? God was looking for companionship, not competition. This wasn't exactly what he had in mind. Then John describes how Satan got his following.
His, that would be the dragon's, tail drew a third of the stars of heaven, which is a metaphor for angels, and threw them to the earth. Revelation 12:4.
I'm pretty sure none of this surprised God. It did, however, prove that angelic beings weren't going to fill the bill as God's companions. Instead, he would create an order of beings that, while lower than the angels in some way, were made in his own image and likeness, beings with the capacity for love, not just for loyalty. Their relationship with God would be different from the angels because their nature would be different. But that would require some infrastructure. God converted some of his energy into matter, something that had never been done before, a speculation factor of 8 on that one, and built a universe, complete with galaxies, solar systems, and planets, so his companions would have a nice place to live. Call me crazy, but I firmly believe that man is the end product of God's creative process, the only reason he made the cosmos. This is not some arrogant religious wacko theory akin to the earth is the center of the universe nonsense that almost got Galileo burned at the stake. But think about it. Does God need galaxies? What good do supernovae or quasars do him? He lived quite nicely forever without them. We, on the other hand, need the heavier elements formed in stars for our very existence, for we are physical beings as well as spiritual, made quite literally of the dust of the earth. The wonders of creation are not so much an indicator of God's greatness as they are a measure of his love. And that, God's love, is the key to companionship. The capacity to love is, to some extent, what gives us the image and likeness of God, for God is love. You see, love is the one thing that cannot be forced, even by an omnipotent deity, because if it is no longer love, but becomes something else. In that, it's fundamentally different from obedience, loyalty, or even worship. It can't be compelled, bought, stolen, held for ransom, or even manufactured. It can only be earned. It can't be sold or bartered. It can only be given away. And here's the rub. The capacity to love requires the capacity not to love. If the object of God's affection cannot reject him, then accepting him is a meaningless concept. That brings us back to God's little paradox. How can he have a loving relationship with us, his would-be companions, if he leaves us no choice but to accept and reciprocate his love? If we have no choice, our love is nothing more than obedience. But if we do have a choice, our obedience demonstrates our love. So he gave us a choice, a very simple way to demonstrate our trust, our love for him, in the Garden of Eden. He said, do anything you want, but don't eat the fruit of this one tree, kids. Then God left us alone for 10 minutes, or 10,000 years, it really doesn't matter, and we rejected his love.